coast to coast, we've got two hosts to host. Welcome to another episode of the Fivecast Podcast. We're to break down and examine intricately prepared top 5 lists for your enjoyment from the Central Town and Ben Pearson.
Jeez. It's crazy. People can always tell, the listeners I'm sure can always tell when we do two episodes back to back because you just burn through that intro.
Interesting, though. It's been 2 weeks since our last episode. If you haven't figured it out by now, the Fivecast is now bi-monthly/bi-weekly. I don't know which one's which. Every 2 weeks you'll find us.
We're never going to look it up.
Yeah, and it's pretty trying to do a top 5 list every week, even though it's fun and entertaining, and I'm going to say some of the best episodes ever in podcastdom is from the Fivecast Podcast. But it's just a lot of work, Ben, a lot of work. A lot of intricate preparations, and we brought back the Not Just New Movies podcast, so that's a thing. That's monthly. Yep. So net loss of one show per month. So we're still doing 3 shows spread out across the month instead of doing 5 or 8.
Right.
If we did a monthly movie podcast as well, or a weekly one.
I think also the Not Just New Movies episodes are an hour plus maybe somewhere around there. So it's sort of like these episodes tend to hover at the half-hour mark, I would say, as on average. So you're really not losing out on any actual content. It's just being repurposed and redistributed to other areas.
I mean, it is stressful to try to prepare, even though the Fivecast doesn't really require a lot of preparation. There is some prep, though, for NJNM. And Ben, you know what I like to do when I'm overstressed and I need to let off some steam? I pick up a video game controller, Ben.
Okay.
Now, it's been about a month or so, probably announced in July at some point, probably pre-Comic-Con. That was the news of the NES Mini, Ben. Have you heard about this? Have you seen this?
Yeah, I think so. It's like just a mini version of the NES, is that right?
Yeah, that's true. Right on the money. And it is like the NES system of days past, except you don't put in a cartridge, even though they should have probably included that. But it's in the palm of your hand, Ben, and you install a controller, which is shaped, I think, like the Wii slots. I'm not really sure. And it comes pre-installed with 30 games, Ben. 30 games. Ooh. I've seen this at Urban Outfitters. By the way, this episode is not sponsored by Urban Outfitters, nor has the Fivecast ever been sponsored by anybody. Let's get on that, sponsors.
Right.
But if it was, I would, of course, advertise that Urban Outfitters will have an Atari, like a mini Atari with games uploaded, and a mini Sega that has games loaded in. I think Sega responded by announcing they're coming out with another mini version with 80 games.
Ooh.
Which Sega and Nintendo are under the same roof nowadays anyway, so... Yeah.
So it's not quite of a sick burn as I thought.
It's definitely not. But we might get to that. We've done Sega Genesis games, Ben, here on the Fivecast, but we haven't done NES games. But let's narrow it down. There's 875 titles on the NES, in case you didn't know. But there are 30 that are on the NES Mini. Let's take a look through that list, see if we can't come up with a nice top 5 for the listener. Video games always get played, so looking at you, listener, you got to get this up into the 800s, 900s. We've been hovering around, 17 these last couple weeks. So
17 total plays for the episode. Oh, man, we are in business.
But, I mean, I know Nintendo's going to help us out a little bit. This episode's, of course, not sponsored by Nintendo either. But let's go ahead and get started, Ben. Your number 5 game that you would play on the NES Mini. Let's go ahead and get started.
My number 5 is Double Dragon 2: The Revenge.
Ooh, interesting. I forgot that was on there.
Yeah, it looks really cool. If you go to the Wikipedia page, you can see what looks like a full-size movie poster, but it's actually a promotional flyer for the arcade version of the game, which I think is what came out first, and then it sort of got ported or what have you over to the NES. This is the sequel to Double Dragon, which is actually a movie that we reviewed, or was adapted into a movie that we reviewed on the Not Just New Movies podcast. You can find that if you want to listen to it.
It wasn't that bad.
It was surprisingly this is, cheesy, but pretty good. Yeah, the first game is one that I actually played. I've never played 2, The Revenge, but I was reading the synopsis of the plot, Tyler, and this game is dark. This thing gets dark really, really quickly. So apparently you save the girl basically at the end of the first game. Billy
Jenny
and Jimmy Lee, the two twin brothers who are out for justice and revenge or whatever. They have to save their girlfriend. Marion is her name.
Yep.
And she
two-player action.
And the Wikipedia says that that the sequel, Double Dragon 2, The Revenge, involves Billy and Jimmy Lee in a mission to avenge their girlfriend Marion after she's shot to death by the Black Warriors leader Willie, who is retaliating against the Lee brothers after his defeat at the end of the previous game. So immediately I was like, wait a second, it's their girlfriend Marion? How they're twin brothers? How the hell does that work? So I went back and looked at how the real Double Dragon, the first game, ended, and I guess it's like if you're playing it 2-player and you get all the way through to the very end and beat the game, then you have to turn on each other, and brother has to fight brother in order to win the girl, which is like, seems like you should be on the same page about that all the way through. But
the stakes are risen.
Yeah, very much so. So anyway, so Marion is killed in cold blood, basically, in the opening of this game, which is like, Jesus, like, okay, you were going there really quick. So
children have to deal with loss very early on, Ben.
Yeah. So the leader of the gang that they were fighting in the first one murders the girl, and then they go out for justice. And the thing is, he was getting justice for the defeat that they had handed him. So Tyler, it's a never-ending circle of violence and chaos. That's what I like about this game. It deals with real-world consequences, and introduces that stuff to kids at a very young age. So yeah, it's sort of crazy.
Also, speaking of dragons, check out our last episode of the Fivecast, Top 5 Dragons.
Oh yeah, I almost put this on that list, but I figured we'd be talking about it soon enough. So.
Did you ever play Double Dragon meets Battletoads? Great game.
I did not. Was that good?
I think it's on the Super Nintendo.
Okay.
Oh yeah, it's excellent.
Okay. All right.
My number 5 is Metroid. A game of isolation. If you've ever played Super Metroid, you are alone for, well, let's say 60 hours. It's probably how long it took me to play or get through. Maze after maze after maze. You're within a planet. There's little monsters and like mind control Metroids which suck your brains, and then there's the dragon or the space pirate or something, Ridley, that's trying to steal stuff from you. You're completely de-weaponized, I guess, at the beginning of the game, so you have to go and collect all of your like super mecha armor. And the whole time it was a girl. It was Samus Aran.
Yeah.
One of the first female protagonists in gaming. It went from a square to a Pong paddle to the Mario Brothers, and then Samus Aran. So it only took a few years to get a female character in there.
Yep.
And you have to beat it in a certain amount of time to see her in a bathing suit, so that's kind of weird, nerds. But
very much.
She takes off her helmet and reveals that she's a woman. Everyone's like, gasp. Oh, yeah. But great game. I'd play it in a second when I have that NES Mini that Nintendo's going to send us, because we did a whole episode about it. November 11th, 2016, right there in my doorstep. Going to be playing it right away, Shigeru. Shigeru-san.
Wouldn't that be great if that's how the Fivecast works? Is we got free stuff based on what we talked about, like just boxes of cereal show up at the front door.
Like the guy who invented Captain Crunch like shakes my hand. Like the Jack Kirby Museum invites us for lectures.
Oh wow!
It's basically what Chris Hardwick does with the Nerdist, where every time he produces a Nerdist, it's probably brought to you by Sony, and he just gets like 6 PlayStation 4s whenever he wants.
Yeah, and he just smashes one with a baseball bat when he's having a bad day.
Yeah, he's like, oh, let me post a YouTube video. I'll just smash a PS4. Chris Hardwick smashes PS4. Unreal. Click now.
All right, so...
Ben, you're number 4.
My number 4 is Super C, Tyler, and I had to look up what that was. And it turns out
Contra.
It's Super Contra, yes.
Yeah.
The sequel to the first Contra, of course.
Did you think the C was going to be like an expletive?
I had no idea what it was. I really didn't.
Battle the Super C.
So I was looking at, and the reason that I chose this. So first of all, I've never played this version. Again, just like the Double Dragon 2 example, I've played Contra, but not Super Contra.
Right.
And I really liked Contra when I was a kid in the arcade, because it was just like jungle madness. You would sort of be a soldier just like running through all these crazy locales, and you would have like spread guns and stuff that didn't actually work like real guns do in the real world. But I liked it. Yeah, there was dots, exactly, and I liked it. I liked the colors of it. I liked the sort of ridiculousness of the violence and everything.
Right.
And then so really the main reason that I chose Super Contra, Tyler, is because I've never played it, and I feel like it would be, it's like 30 years later at this point. It's about time for me to pick up the sequel that came out in 1988, and then B is the poster, the European brochure for this that appears on Wikipedia is just awesome. It's the two dudes. One of them is shirtless,
obviously,
and the other one is launching the biggest bazooka-looking thing that I've ever seen from his shoulder. It looks like he's struggling under the weight of it. And then the tagline. Yeah, the tagline is, "He's not human, he's not alien, he's the Predator," with 2 exclamation points. And it looks like it could be sort of tied into the Predator cinematic universe in a way. The hulking, rippling muscles are very reminiscent of Schwarzenegger himself. So I choose to believe that Super Contra, because it involves aliens, which I also didn't realize because I never got to the very end of the first Contra game. I think aliens take over the soldiers that you're fighting in this game. So because of the alien presence and because of this poster, this European brochure, I'm just going to assume that it's actually tied into the Predator universe, and that makes it a must play in my. So that's
a qualifying sequel to the franchise.
Yes, for sure.
Isn't there a new Predator movie coming out?
There is supposed to be, yeah. There's no official release date yet, but I think Shane Black is working on the script as we speak.
Predators? What's it called?
I think it's just called Predator. Wait, no, that's not true. It's called The Predator. There's some sort of distinction between the first one. Well, The Predator means that it's just one, maybe like a king predator or something.
Okay, so that's what it should be called, King Ghidorah Predator.
Well, I think Schwarzenegger is supposedly making another Conan the Barbarian movie, and that one's supposed to be called King Conan. So I'm guessing they didn't call it King Predator just because he didn't want to start a whole King series of movies this late in the game. But,
King Terminator.
Yeah, let's get that one going.
King True Lies. Nice. My number 4 is Excitebike, Ben. Great game.
Put this on the list. Okay.
Get to build your own tracks and test. Maybe build it for your friends. Let them do it. Just put a lot of speed bumps on there. Try to get them to knock off their bike. Very simple, very basic. But I think it was one of the first games that I got to build my own level. So I thought that was pretty cool. Just made really, really tall ramps and crashed every single time because I didn't know how to play the game.
Of course.
But I think now I'll have known better. 30 years experience on top of it now. Probably can get back into Excitebike. I'm excited as ever. This system looks fantastic. Nintendo, I'll give you my address at the end of the show. You can send that our way, 5castpodcast@gmail.com. You can send review copies, whatever you got to do. Ben, you probably know some people over there.
No, I don't.
Okay. That's it. Excitebike. It's very simple. It's not that intricate. It's not like level upon level. You just build your own track, and it's kind of cool.
Yeah, definitely a precursor to the Tony Hawk game design levels that sort of took the world by storm in the early 2000s, I think. So,
Ben, number 3.
My number 3 is Donkey Kong Jr., a game that I have never played, but is a direct sequel to Donkey Kong, and this one, very similarly to the way that Double Dragon 2: The Revenge is, sort of perpetuates this cycle of violence. The same sort of themes are going through Donkey Kong Jr., Tyler. So this game starts out with Kong being Donkey Kong, the elder, the father, being captured by Mario, and you are playing as DK Jr., and you are trying to just simply save your father from the monster that Mario has become. Mario
an
also
animal abuser.
Yeah, pretty much. He's keeping him in a cage at the top of the level that you got to get to. Mario, known as Jumpman in Donkey Kong, but this is the first and only appearance of Mario as a villain in video games, I think, or an antagonist in a Nintendo video game, I should say.
Okay.
Later on, you can obviously play against him in some of the N64 games and stuff like that. But as far as like the key protagonist or antagonist, this looks like the only one. And I do like the idea of fathers and sons and like the passing down. It reminds me of Taken 2, a movie that I absolutely despise, but one that had a decent premise, which was the relatives of the gang members that Liam Neeson bowls over and murders in the first movie come together and come after him as revenge for these horrible acts that he committed against them. And it's just a never ending. It's like the end of freaking Batman Begins, where it's like escalation. Like you start using Kevlar, they start using armor piercing rounds, and it's just like one after the other. So
some people just want to say the word bomb, Mr. Wayne.
Yeah, what are you gonna do? How's it gonna work? I don't know. There's no end to this, but Donkey Kong Jr. is caught firmly in the second wave of it. So,
well, have you heard the theory that the Donkey Kong in this game is actually the Cranky Kong of later Donkey Kong entries, and that Donkey Kong Jr. is the Donkey Kong we know and love today with the little DK tie?
Wow, no, I've not.
Some people say that's, even though video game characters need not grow in age, but a lot of people think that that's the case because Donkey Kong, the monster of the first game, I guess DK's like friendlier nowadays, so they go, oh well, that was DK Jr. who grew up to be Donkey Kong of today, and that Cranky Kong is old Donkey Kong.
And then Diddy Kong is DK Jr.'s offspring. Is that?
No, I think Diddy is just because I think he's an entirely different monkey.
Oh,
I think he's just a pal. But if you look at Cranky Kong, like he must have pulled like a 1994 Hulk Hogan where he just stopped taking his steroids and just lost everything because he is a scrawny old monkey at this point, Cranky Kong.
Man.
Yeah, he's the one that's listening to the boombox at the beginning of Donkey Kong Country. No, he's listening to the phonograph and then Donkey Kong busts in with his boombox. That's how it goes.
I vaguely remember that.
Okay. Yeah. My number 3, Ben, is Kirby's Adventure. Great game. Just played it myself recently. Got it on the old Wii console. You can send me some Wiis too if you want Wii U's, Nintendo. I wrote a whole article about that, and they still haven't sent me one, Ben. Can you believe that?
The balls.
I know. Balls on. But yeah, Kirby's Adventure, you get to go through a bunch of different levels. It's kind of happy-go-lucky until the very, very end when you realize that the entire world is possessed by some kind of space demon. But all throughout, you get to suck up your enemies and take on their powers. Some of them are weaker than others, but sometimes you get a mallet. Sometimes you become like a chainsaw. Sometimes you become like a nuke or whatever. Sometimes you're like spikes or a rock or brick, whatever. And it comes in handy, and it's a really easy game to play too because I can just go and get like multiple lives. I think I had like 20 at one point.
Wow.
And then I went back down to 2, and then I was getting kind of nervous, and then I got back up to like 18, and I was fine. But yeah, that last battle, that was tough. Almost didn't beat it, but I did. Because I am a grown-ass man. I can beat a child's game.
Yes.
And so I want to beat it again on the NES Mini, and I'm sure Nintendo will give me that chance. So that's my number 3. Kirby's Adventure.
This whole episode is just a really pathetically disguised attempt for you to try to get one for free.
It's just going to be like I'm just going to have like a blank banner with white font that says, give me one Nintendo, or
and you're going to post the link to this episode in every Nintendo forum that you can find.
Looking at you, Nintendo subreddit.
Oh, man. So my number 2, Tyler, is Ghosts and Goblins.
Interesting choice.
A 1985 side-scrolling platforming game that this one stars you as a knight named Sir Arthur, and you have to battle zombies, ogres, demons, cyclops, or cycli, maybe, I don't know, dragons, and other monsters in order to rescue Princess Prin Prin, terrible name, who has been kidnapped by none other than Satan himself, king of the demon world.
Yeah.
So
I didn't even know he needed a title.
Yeah, this one sort of jumped up a notch when I realized that Satan was involved.
Yeah.
So you can play, you can get different suits of armor and stuff. Apparently, this is one of the most difficult video games ever released. I've not played it myself, but it sounds super hard because the player can only be hit twice before losing a life. The first hit taking away Arthur's armor, the second hit killing him. Also, when your armor is gone, you have to play in your underwear until you find replacement armor. So that's a notable little thing about that. Also, There's a timer on the game where each life can only last 3 minutes or something like that.
That's crazy.
So that already sounds tough. And then my favorite part, the thing that really pushed this over into, man, this game is hard and sounds like really like a giant pain in the ass, but sort of something that I would enjoy playing on the NES Mini, is that after defeating the final boss with a cross weapon, which apparently is a whole another shit show of having to acquire that by the time you get to the final boss. If you defeat him with the cross weapon for the first time, the player is informed that the battle was a trap, quote, a trap devised by Satan, and then you have to replay the entire game on a higher difficulty level to reach the real final battle.
Yeah.
So like the game basically just bitch slaps you in the face and says, ha, you thought you were done, you jackass. No, you have to do the entire thing again. And you thought it was hard this time? Guess what? It's even harder for real. So this game just seems sadistic, and I feel like I would like the challenge to try to take it on.
You know who's in charge, though? Satan.
Yeah.
So of course it's going to be sadistic.
Absolutely.
Also, they needed to make sure that kids weren't renting this at the store and playing it in like 3 days. So they'd make it difficult, and they would repeat quests, I guess, to get kids to buy it as opposed to rent it. So an interesting ploy, game developers, an interesting ploy.
Yeah, it's almost like negging. Like you neg the gamer into playing it all the way through. Like you give him a little bit and then just take it away.
He's just like, fuck you. You're not going to beat this, you asshole. Ha ha ha. My number 2 is none other than the famous man of PacMan himself.
Oh,
it's
wow,
be
that's
on
on the list. Nice.
Yeah, it's on the NES Mini. Played it many a times at a pizza parlor. Not just a pizza parlor, but pretty much any pizza parlor has probably the PacMan Galaga arcade machine because, you know, hey, we're retro.
What self-respecting pizza parlor does not?
Yeah.
It's the definitive pizza parlor game ever made, I think.
You've got the Italian flag. You've got some old lady that's the mama of the crew. You've got pepperoni. You've got your PacMan arcade box.
Yep.
And you know the Pac-Man. Got 4 ghosts riding your ass. It got some jumping pretzels and cherries to gobble up, and a lot of dots. Ben.
So many dots.
And the ghosts are all programmed differently, so that's another way the game developers are trying to fuck with you. And it's probably going to be the direct arcade port because the Atari version and the NES version, I think, were lackluster at best. And so unless they're going to go and be like, well, we only have the one version that we used on the Nintendo, so that's the one you get, which I think was like subpar compared to the arcade port. Either way, it's a fun game, so I got it number 2. Played a lot of it on my TI-89 calculator as well.
Love it.
Great stuff. Ben, we might have the same number 1.
I don't think so. Mine's pretty obscure. It's called Star Tropics.
Okay.
This is a game I've never heard of, but it sounded very, very interesting. So I'm just going to read from the paragraph of the plot section on Wikipedia. So the story of the game follows Mike as he travels to visit his uncle, an archaeologist by the name of Dr. Stephen Jones, at his laboratory on the fictional sea island in the so-called South Seas. So let me stop right there for a second. An archaeologist with the name Dr. Jones?
Well, that sounds like something I need to come up about. Now, Ben, you know my son's name's Henry Jones Jr. We named the dog Indiana.
Right.
He says he has some fond memories of that dog, but, I laugh. Shala laughs. What's his name gets lost in his own museum.
Yes.
Great stuff.
What is that guy's name? I'm losing it.
Oh, I know his name. Lependish Maitia. Which, starts with an M.
No, it doesn't.
Murray? Is it Murray? No. Melvin? My good friend? No. Marcus Brody. Marcus Brody.
Yes, that's right.
Son of a bitch, I'm old.
Wow.
All right, see you later, Sean.
It took a while. Took a while. So when Mike, this game character, arrives at Dr. Jones's home in the tropical village of Corral Cola, he realizes that his uncle has gone missing, Tyler. So the assistant gives him a special yo-yo to defend himself and permits Mike to use his uncle's submarine to search for him. So you got a yo-yo on a submarine. awesome. What more could you ask for?
What?
On a nearby island, Mike finds a bottle with a message from Dr. Jones stating that he has been abducted by extraterrestrials. So the answer to my previous question is aliens, of course.
Yeah.
That's what else you need. Traveling to multiple islands in the South Seas, Mike encounters monsters, labyrinths, quirky characters, intelligent animals, including a talking parrot and a mother dolphin looking for her son, all in the search for his lost uncle, Dr. Jones.
That's
so
crazy.
This game sounds pretty baller to me.
Sounds excellent. And of course, you can't wait until you get an NES Mini free from Nintendo so you can play that, right?
That is correct. Sure. Why not? I'll just go along with this.
Now, Ben, I don't know if Dr. Jones got where he got his doctorate, but I do know that a certain doctor helps us out any chance we get.
I think I know where you're going.
That is the black-cloaked Dr. Mario, the Depeche Mode version, bringing out the pills, helping cure diseases across the Mushroom Kingdom.
I've heard his prescription is always funk, Tyler.
Yeah, well,
true?
It's true. It's very true. And he's setting up almost like a Tetris game, I guess, in Dr. Mario. Have you ever played this? Have you seen this?
No, I haven't.
There's germs that are like infecting, I guess, the Mushroom Kingdom, maybe the Goombas or the Toads. And he has to try to get the right combination of pills and the right colors of pills to get rid of those germs. So it's a lot like Tetris, but it's more color-based, I guess. And
bubblier from the look of it.
Yeah. So, I guess maybe it was Nintendo's way of trying to come up with a Tetris and succeed. Mission successful, because he's topping out in the number one. Not only one of my favorite Smash Brothers characters, but also one of my favorite NES games. I didn't want to put on the usual suspects, Ben.
Yeah.
But I feel like Dr. Mario, I feel like that might be one of the first games. Actually, at number one, it will be one of the first games. It will be the first game I play when I get that free, sweet, cost-free NES Mini from Nintendo, November 11th, 2016. I was about to say 1985, but that's not correct.
What were pharmacies called back in the Old West, Tyler?
Apothecaries?
Yes, apothecaries. So the Tetris game board, if you will, the area in which the pills are contained looks like an old apothecary bottle. So that's kind of a cool touch in Dr. Mario that I never noticed before.
Nice. And he's sitting there right in the corner with his little clipboard, making sure you're doing things right.
Yeah, and he's
maybe you're the pharmacist, and maybe
he's got a magnifying glass too.
Yeah, he's got to find those germs. Anyway,
deal that out, man.
Great stuff. Dr. Mario, of course, we welcome him onto our show at any time. I don't know if that guy does the voice of Dr. Mario. If there's like a Dr. Mario voice, it's the cancer.
Oh, man, that took a dark turn.
So, guys, if you need me to be the voice of Dr. Mario Nintendo, Shigeru-san, call me up. You can, of course, reach us via email, 5castpodcast@gmail.com. Ben, of course, you can always find us on Twitter, iTunes, SoundCloud, Geek Tyrant, and PodTyrant.com. Go over there and find your next favorite podcast. Ben, where could the 5cast listeners find you in cyberspace?
You can find me on GeekTyrant.com. You can find me at Twitter.com/BenPairs. You can find me at PodTyrant. There's a bunch of cool stuff there, including the relatively newly relaunched Not Just New Movies podcast, which is now a monthly show. You can get all of the new episodes at PodTyrant and all of the older back episodes at njnmpodcast.blogspot.com.
Yeah, great show. Great stuff. And, of course, remember that the 5cast is bi-weekly/bi-monthly now, every 2 weeks.
Yes.
And NJNM is monthly. You can subscribe, I believe, to that show on iTunes, so you can listen back to all of the back episodes of both of our shows. And until next time, Ben, I'm going to have to ask you to take 5. Bye-bye, buddy.
Take 5.